Right now in Congress, we are debating a bill called H.R. 8, the Bipartisan Background Checks Act of 2021. It sounds reasonable enough, right? Not exactly. First, background checks already exist for most gun purchases, but this bill would implement universal background checks. What does that mean? Well, in some states, you can privately transfer your gun to someone else, a neighbor, a friend, a family member. Maybe you let someone borrow your gun to go to the range or go hunting. Gun control advocates don't like this. They claim this causes more crime. And at first, that might seem to be the case. But multiple studies have failed to find a causal relationship between universal background checks and reduced homicides. And why would they? When you really think about it, who is going to follow this law? Well, law-abiding citizens will. They will have to make a trip to the gun store just to borrow or trade a gun with a friend and pay for a background check. But ask yourself this, will criminals do it? In fact, it's already illegal to knowingly transfer a gun to someone who can't legally possess a weapon. And yet, criminals do it anyway. So, would universal background checks stop crime? Will criminals self-report their transactions like is required under universal background checks? Of course not. They already don't, because they are criminals, and there is no incentive to do so, and no way to catch them if they don't. What about closing the so-called gun show loophole? Well, the truth is, if you go to a gun show and buy from a licensed dealers, you already have to go through a background check just like if you were buying a gun from a retail store. There is no special legal treatment of gun shows. It's a myth. And let's look at the number of criminals who use weapons bought at a gun show. Turns out less than 1% of criminals who used a gun in a crime bought the weapon from a gun show. So where do criminals get their weapons? The majority of criminals, 56%, who used firearms in a crime stole them or got them from the black market. In Houston, where I'm from, a local news station compiled data on Houston murders. 63% of the criminals said the gun they used was stolen. So what would stop gun violence? A number of things. Increasing the penalties on straw buyers, for one. These are the ones who buy guns for the purpose of transferring them knowingly to criminals. What about increasing the penalties for those who steal from licensed FFL dealers? And let's make sure that NICS, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, is regularly updated with information from state, local, and federal law enforcement so we can keep guns out of the hands of known criminals. Those are all bills Republicans have offered, but we're not voting on those bills that would actually address gun violence. All H.R. 8 would do is turn lawful, normal activity into a federal crime without doing anything to stop violent crime. That's what you need to know about universal background checks.